So you guys recently have been enjoying my videos that I've been making on reading and books, and I've been enjoying making them a lot as well. So I thought today we'd do a little the 7 books that changed my life video. So I did a 5 books before, but this is kind of like a 7 books that everyone should read. Every person. I think especially for a lot of people on this channel who are interested in philosophy or self-improvement, these books more than any book ever have given me a guiding philosophy in life, something to follow, some light in the darkness that I can aim towards, some aspiring characters or ways of life that for the longest period have influenced a lot of my thinking and the things that I've done. So to get that started, the book that began it all for me perhaps, and it's a total cliche, but it's On the Road by Jack Kerouac. And we've spoken about it before on this channel, but it is such an important book for so many reasons. For me, it taught me that there's more to life than mundanity, than the things that we're taught, than living your 9-to-5 existence. That life in reality is about the experiences that you create, about the characters that you meet. It's about having this spirit of youth, this thing to follow, the search for meaning, but most importantly, excitement and joy for life. I think a lot of people have forgotten to enjoy things. We live these very depressing lives and these depressing existences, and we don't really search for much meaning in them. We're very content with living these lives of mundanity and living in a way with this kind of depression or this depressed existence. But On the Road teaches you not to do that. There's this very famous quote in it, which I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't have it in front of me, but it goes something like this. It's Kerouac and he's speaking about following these characters, and he says, for me in this life it's the mad ones, the people that are mad to live, mad to breathe, mad to dance, who never say a commonplace thing or yawn, who burn, burn, burn like a Roman candle exploding across the sky. Something like that. But it's basically about that. It's about life should be like that. It should be like this Roman candle, like this explosion, this firework across the sky that's bliss and ecstasy. And in a way that brought me on to number 2, which is the Dharma Bums, which in a way is a spiritual successor to On the Road, and in a way a very spiritual successor. So it's a book by Kerouac again on spirituality, on about finding the Dharma. And again, just like On the Road where he follows this character Dean Moriarty, in the Dharma Bums he follows a character called Jaffe Ryder, and we're going to do a full video on the philosophy of Jaffe Ryder, but it's such an important idea that one of the ways to get to this idea of pure ecstasy and bliss is through spirituality and mindfulness and meditation. It was the book that for me taught me about Buddhism, that taught me that in this world compassion and love are 2 of the biggest things that will get you through. Having that kind of outpouring of your energy into other humans is such an important thing to have. But it also taught me on a more conceptual level these ideas of suffering being linked to wanting and consumerism. It taught me that in reality the best life is a very simple life. It's one where you rise every morning, you live in a simple house with frugal things, and you read and you meditate and you eat simple but good and hearty food. You have this purpose that you're following, this study, this pursuit of knowledge and philosophy and life and love. And it was a beautiful book for so many reasons, but essentially that's what it taught me, was that you need to be spiritual in a way. You need to have some level of spirituality in your life. Then next, and following on with the theme of kind of life philosophies, is Zorba the Greek by Nikos Kazantzakis. And it's a book, I think, which is more famous through its film, but that doesn't mean the book is bad. In fact, I think the book is a lot better than the film. It's quite a hard one to find, but I'm sure there'll be a link for it on Amazon somewhere. But again, it's a book about a character. I think these books are special to me. The books that have this kind of character that they pin out of nothing are the most beautiful books for me. Again, there's this Kerouac quote. It was in his 30 Rules of Writing, where he says, beautiful characters in human environments. And it's very true. In all 3 of these books so far, you have these inhuman, I don't know, kind of depictions of modern life, but from them come these beautiful characters who in some ways speak to us as sufferers and speak to us and tell us that there's a better way to live, that there is another way. So Zorba the Greek is about this man who goes to Greece, believe it or not. He goes to the island of Crete and he starts up a mine for coal, and there he meets this character Zorba, who's the lead miner, and he talks to Zorba, and Zorba basically tells him, look my friend, this is how you should be living. You need to stop reading all your fucking books, your head in like a fucking book 24/7 and start experiencing the world. He says, drink wine and eat and meet beautiful women and talk to them and do whatever else with them. Just live this amazing life, but experience it fully. But more importantly, that life doesn't even need to be that amazing for you to live it fully and completely. Then next we have Norwegian Wood, which is a book by Haruki Murakami, and it's much more of a story than the others were. It's a kind of love story, a romantic depiction of beauty, which in a way sounds a bit wet, but it is a beautiful book. And do you know what though, more importantly than any of that, what it drilled home to me was this kind of pervading sense of beauty. I mean, the book is very beautifully written, the story is a very beautiful tale, but it's a tale of very mundane lives. It's a beautiful depiction of a mundane existence. And just like perhaps Zorba the Greek or even the Dharma Bums that we spoke about, it's a book that to me makes me appreciate existence even in its simplest form, because even there is beauty. You see, there's a certain kind of magic to reading a book where not much happens other than just existence. I think for a lot of people it can drill home the message that if you look at your life from an outward perspective, you can find a lot of beauty and wonder inside of it. So Norwegian Wood did that for me as well. Then next we have The Outsider by Albert Camus, and again it's a story. It's a story of, and it's not really a spoiler because it happens very early on in the book, but it's about a man who for no reason in particular goes and shoots another guy on the beach. And it's this idea of nihilism, of, well, absurdism more specifically, but this idea that life doesn't really have a meaning. If you shoot someone, well, you end up in prison. It's not a good thing on any kind of moral standpoint, but realistically, it kind of is what it is. Life has no inherent meaning or value to it, is Camus' message. But from that meaningless existence, you need to grasp this kind of will for happiness inside of it. It's an idea that's prevalent throughout a lot of Camus' books, and he wrote another one which I can't remember exactly what it was called, and that's going to annoy me now, but it was a book essentially about the will to happiness, and The Outsider does it as well, but it's much more famous and much more easy to grasp as a book is. But it's a great book. It's a depiction of that kind of absurdism, of life's meaninglessness, and how to grasp meaning inside of it. And of course the character in this book, maybe he doesn't necessarily find that meaning, but throughout Camus' wider works, if you look at it more holistically, you realise that the message that he's saying is find beauty in the mundanity. Again, like a lot of the other books we've spoken about, is find beauty inside of that mundanity, that absurdism. He had this essay that he wrote called The Myth of Sisyphus. And Sisyphus was this man who pushed a rock up a hill, and every time he'd get to the top it would fall back down again. But he found happiness in it. He pushed the rock up backwards. He pushed the rock up by running up and down behind it. He found fun and enjoyment inside of this meaningful, like meaningless and mundane existence. And the book kind of says that as well. It's an idea that already actually is that throughout these books there is a common theme. It is that theme of beauty within meaninglessness, in beauty with simplicity, of living a simple life. And again, I said we're going to make a video on that. I'm going to record it just after this one actually. But it's the idea of simplicity and the importance of it. But also reading generally is brilliant. And I'm going to go into that rant for a second. It's just start reading, because like I say, these 7 books, they're like a fingerprint of my brain. That's what I like to think of a bookshelf as. I think more so than anything, you can tell the character of a man or a woman by looking at the books on his shelf. More so than anything, it is a fingerprint of that individual's brain, the thoughts and the ideas and the philosophy that has shaped and created it. And so when you hear these things that people say, like the 7 books that changed my life, there is reality behind it, because these books in the most meaningful way have shaped my existence. If I hadn't ever read any of these, I wouldn't be half the person I am today. I wouldn't even be close to the individual that I am today. I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing. I wouldn't have this outlook on life. I probably wouldn't have this feeling inside of me of happiness and joy. I mean, I went from a place of darkness to this kind of happy and free existence because of books like these. Now we move on to 2 that are more overtly philosophical. And the first one is Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche. And it's a weird book. It's quite a difficult one to understand if you're jumping straight into philosophy. He writes it in a very poetic style, but it's the story of a prophet called Zarathustra who comes down from the heavens and he tells people God is dead. That is his message, is God is dead. And that's one of the most famously misquoted lines, because out of context it means this nihilistic message of there is no God anymore, do whatever you want. But in reality the message is that morals and Christianity and religion inside of our current society have degraded to the point where there is really no God or morality left. And Nietzsche's message to that is to become the creator of a moral code yourself. Again, it's a very interesting idea and one that shaped me quite profoundly, but it's the idea that you go through 3 metamorphoses in your life. You firstly become the camel, who carries the burdens of society, maybe the individual that goes to school, that goes to university, that gets a job afterwards, falls in love with a girl, has kids. It's the burdens of society that you do because you've been taught to do them, and that's a lot of people, that's 99% of the world right now. And then he says, you change and you become the lion. And this is the next step on the process towards liberation and freedom, is you become the lion who starts to reevaluate these values. And instead of being told, thou shalt, he starts to say, I will. He starts to have these own values, these own virtues that he kind of decrees in his life, that I will do this and I will do that because I want to do them, not because I've been told to do them by some higher structure. And then finally you have the child. The final metamorphosis is the kid who, again, now that he's gone through everything else, can start to look at the world new after he's deconstructed all the morals that he's been taught. And he can look at the world new from a fresh perspective and create values. Can begin to create his own values and say, you know what? What I really value in life isn't money, but it's happiness, or it's mindfulness, or it's spirituality, or I don't like the dogma of this religion. I don't like being told what to wear and what to eat and when to do it. What I want is love and compassion. It's the spirit that can start to create values again. So more so than anything, it's a profound book. He has this idea as well of the Übermensch, the creator and the end goal of humanity. He says the human in its current form is the bridge between animal and Übermensch. And Übermensch is this end ideal of the Superman, the man who has his own values, who is strong and is powerful because of the values that he has, the special man who pushes the world forwards. And for all those reasons, it's a fantastic book, and I definitely recommend you read it. And then finally, the final book, and again a deeply philosophical book, is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And Marcus Aurelius was an emperor in ancient Rome, so already it's a very interesting account of the life of an emperor, something we'll never understand, and is beautiful just for that. But more so, the message that he teaches is profound. It's a lesson of rationality. He says basically that the main difference between human and animal is that we have rational minds, that we can think and that we can decide on what we want to actually do, what we think is moral. And he says basically that to live anything other than a moral and rational life goes against nature. And that's what he teaches. And I think a lot of my morality and compassion have been shaped by that book. not instantly being triggered by other individuals and causing them harm, but stopping for a second and thinking, why did that person do that thing to me? Is it maybe because he's suffering or ignorant in his own way, like all the rest of us are, or is it because he was truly evil? And it teaches you a new way to think, to slow down and to think about things before you impulsively act on them, which for me, I know, was a massive hurdle I had to cross. But anyway, those are the 7 books. So On the Road, The Dharma Bums, Zorba the Greek, The Outsider, Norwegian Wood, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. And yeah, they're books I recommend you read, for sure. That's all I have to say on that. But yeah, if you gained any value from that video, drop a subscribe and come and chat to me on the Discord or give me a call. I offer free one-to-one calls, by the way, link in the description. But yeah, I hope to see you in the next video, brother. I'm so proud of you. Manifest excellence. See you tomorrow.